Electing a chair.
So I guess we should let Steph run this part of the meeting.
Okay.
Sure. We would need 3 opportunities for nominations for chair. Is there anyone who would like to nominate someone else or themselves for the position of chair of the Eagle Cliff Water System Local Advisory Committee?
I nominate Tim Misko.
We have 1 nomination for Tim Misko. We have 2 more opportunities for nominations. Would anyone else like to nominate someone? And 3rd try. Okay, can I get a mover, please, on electing Tim Misko as chair? Mover from Glenn Cormier, a seconder, please. Ian is the seconder. All in favor?
Okay, aye.
And abstinence would be a vote in the positive anyways, but I'm not seeing Len. So we're hearing Len.
Can you unmute yourself, Len? You might be having the same technical difficulty I'm having. I can't get my camera to work either. Are you still?
Sorry, there we go. Does that help? Is there a picture?
There's no picture, but we can at least hear you now.
There we go.
There
we
you
can
go.
see you
Here he
now,
is.
Len.
Sorry, guys. I just got in late on this. Anyway, yeah. So, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. And now we're going to go for vice chair.
And
Is there anyone who would like to nominate themselves or someone else as vice chair of the
I'd like to nominate Glenn Cormier.
Okay, we have 1 nomination for Glenn Cormier. Mr. Utilities, Bone Island.
Bone Island Utility Volunteer.
Fun guy.
Can I get a second nomination?
I'll second that nomination. Yes.
Okay, and a 3rd opportunity to usurp. No. Okay, we've got a mover for Glenn Cormier, and we'll take it seconded by Tim Misko. All in favor for Glenn Cormier's vice chair?
Yay.
Wonderful. Carried unanimously. Tim Misko, please take over with the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Let me get into this one. So has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes of October 11th? Is there any errors or omissions or changes that they'd like to see? They looked fine to me.
Okay.
Okay, can we get a motion to accept them? Thank you, Glenn. A seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Len. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the minutes adopted. Public comments. Do we have any members of the public present?
I don't see any members of the public, nor have I heard from any.
Okay, so that's a nice, easy one. So then the big one, number 5, loan authorization petition against results. Kristen, we're sitting on the edge of our seats.
Well, I'm happy to report that we do believe that the petitioning process will be successful. It is, it's not finalized yet. The period for response is closed. However, there's still a determination, a formal determination that needs to be made by the corporate officer. That also has to go to the municipal, to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs for confirmation. And so there's still some administrative things that need to take place, but we do believe that the response rate was well under the threshold. The threshold was 50% +1 of all registered, 1 owner from each property. And also a second test is that those responses needed to represent in excess of 50% of the assessed value of the properties within the local service area. So we believe we are well under, so we are prepared to plan going forward that the borrowing will proceed. So that's all I'm going to say about that. There will be a report to council at the March 25th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Now, in terms of question for you, Kristen, the loan proceeding, are we proceeding with the loan in advance of the Cove Bay water system issues being resolved, or we're waiting until after that's all resolved and then we'll proceed with the loan?
I think the timing of that is probably more of a Patrick conversation. We're not borrowing funds until any expenditures are incurred. So I think Patrick in his presentation will be speaking more about the timing of that. But certainly, yeah, we won't be borrowing any money until the
The inspector has to approve.
but um but when we're going to get going in earnest with completing design and tendering that project, that is, I'll leave that to Patrick to speak to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Christian.
Just so I understand, was the determination as to whether we move forward with borrowing based on understanding that it's tied to the Cove Bay, the success of the Cove Bay plant coming online? But is the design phase tied to that as well, Tim?
I'm not sure. That again, maybe we can have a discussion with Patrick. It might be a good idea is to proceed with the.
Yeah, I just don't remember the wording that was put into it, but I think it had to do with connection, not the design.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe we should let Patrick answer that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the design is well underway, nearly complete, actually. And so we're in a position to, well, close to a position to be able to tender this project. So, and you're right that construction of the project wouldn't begin until a couple of things occur. One is that we have a fully operational Cove Bay water treatment plant, and just to provide, maybe I'll provide a quick update on where we're at with that. Unfortunately, we are having some issues with the both filter modules. One has one or more defective elements in it, ceramic elements, and the other appears to have become plugged. It's not responding to the filter cleaning process in the way that it should. There's also been one of the 24-volt power supplies in the cuff platform has failed and needs to be resolved. After much communication with the technology supplier, our only option is to send this equipment back to Purifix for what they're calling a full factory reset. So that's what we're proceeding with now. They tell us that it's a 4 to 6 week process for them once they receive the equipment, and then they send it back to us. And that could be in May or possibly as late as June before we're in a position to have an operational treatment plant. The other condition is that the loan for the Eagle Cliff portion needs to be secured. And so we've just gone through the first step of that process, which is the public voting, the petition against process. But then there's a bunch more steps that need to happen. Those results need to be presented to council. And then that needs to be submitted to the inspector of municipalities for approval. Then there needs to be an adoption of the loan authorization bylaw itself, and there's followed by a 30-day quashing period before we actually have the funds. So it's not actually until June that we would have the funds in any case. So essentially both of those things, getting the issues with the Cove Bay treatment plant resolved and going through the loan authorization bylaw process, will be happening in parallel. The plan is to include the works, the water main construction and this associated culverts as well in a single tender package with the blue water mains and the other water works that are proposed to upgrade wells and interconnect the systems out on west side. And the reason for doing that is by combining the tenders and providing a bigger scope of work, and tendering it earlier, it provides better chances of getting better pricing and more interest in the tender. The tender documents would be, clear that actually proceeding with construction is contingent on the Cove Bay treatment plant being operational and subsequent approval from the municipality. So essentially, the works would be tendered. They would be proceeding. The contractor that we end up hiring would be proceeding with other components of that tender, and it wouldn't be likely until July that we would see construction proceeding for the Eagle Cliff water main portion of the project. And so that's looking at a construction period of July of this year to February or March of 2025 for completion. So that's the general status and plan for proceeding. If there's any questions or comments about that, we can address those now.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Any comments or questions from anybody?
I've
Yes.
got one. Tim, it's Allison.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick, if you mentioned it. I know you're doing the joint tender, but are they going to run both projects simultaneously, or are they going to do one and then the other in the tender?
Well, it would be up to them to schedule the works, but we would be in the tender documents putting constraints on when they're able to proceed. So there's certain components of the work that wouldn't be able to proceed until we give further approval, and the Eagle Cliff works would be in that category.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't, if things, if the loan is secured and the Cove Bay treatment plant is operational in June, and we give approval to proceed with that work, they may or may not want to proceed with that right away. It depends on their own means and methods of scheduling the work.
So you're not going to put a requirement in the tender documents that the work be done simultaneously then?
We would probably put requirements for completion dates, and then it would be up to the contractor to, that may or may not require working on the project simultaneously to achieve, depending on the workforce they have and the methods that they choose.
And the culverts are largely in Blue Water, not that many in Eagle Cliff, right?
There's quite a few in Eagle Cliff as well.
Okay, that will have to be done going through Scarborough and stuff.
Well, not through Scarborough. They're starting from Ocean View. There's Lower Ocean View. There's, I believe there's 8 culverts that are going to need to be completed as part of the water main project.
Thanks.
Thank you, Allison. Any other questions from anybody? Seeing none. I do have a question jumped in my head, Patrick. Have we heard, thinking of Ocean View, have we heard anything more from the residents between Cove Bay and Eagle Cliff? Have we got any news on that front?
We haven't. We have heard from people who have approached us wanting to connect to the system. We haven't reached out with a mail out asking, who wants to connect for this amount of money. We are waiting for the approval of the
grant.
The Eagle Cliff borrowing before doing that. I'll have to talk to Kristen about if that's something we can proceed to do right now, or if we need to. I think it probably is, and let the rest of the process run its course. So, that's subject to some internal discussion, but I think we can very soon here reach out to these other properties that may be interested in joining the system.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay, next item up is again your report, Patrick, on the Eagle Cliff Water System infrastructure update, and specifically with regard to the drinking report. Have had a chance to look at it. I have had a chance to look at it. I should be a little more clear in my statement. And there was nothing untoward or unexpected from my perspective. Anything to add to it?
Not really. I mean, the only issues are really the periods of turbidity that are exceeding provincial guidelines, which is not unexpected with the unfiltered surface water source. And there's a plan in place to address that.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything else I was wanting to highlight there.
Okay, thank you. So we okay moving on beyond public works and on to finance now? Finance now?
Yeah.
It would appear so. Okay, Kristen, finance, Eagle Cliff Water System, 5-year financial plan.
Sure. This is it's really a 1-year financial plan with some kind of projections into the years 2 to 5. Years 2 to 5, of course, is dependent on an integration of the Cove Bay water system with the Eagle Cliff water system. I haven't taken it that far in the presentation to consider that or make that assumption that the two systems are integrated. So I've just done Cove Bay as standalone, Eagle Cliff as standalone for the purposes of this year's budget. Again, once we start working on those properties in between, we determine what the final numbers are going to be for the cost to buy in to join the system. Then we'll start putting together the body of work to support the integrated model, because that, again, it's going to require a whole other approval process, one in Eagle Cliff and one in Cove Bay, to take that next step. So for now, for this year anyways, the budget is done based on Eagle Cliff as a standalone entity. So for the operating rates considered for years 2 to 5, across the board, across all of the utility systems, I'm recommending to council to approve a 5% annual increase to utility rates. That will keep in line with annual inflationary costs, as well as continue to make an annual contribution to the each utilities fund's reserve fund. So Eagle Cliff, in this projection, same model. I'm increasing annual utility rates by, well, with Eagle Cliff, the 5% for the baseline, and then same increments that we used last year, 2% for the first tier, 4% for the second tier, 6% for the third tier, and 8% for the fourth tier. And that revenue target increasing from 90,000 to 94,500. That should be accommodated if we implement those flat rate increments by 5% and those staggered increments on the variable rates. The borrowing has been included as, under assumption that we borrow the full 820 or as much as we needed, up to 820 to complete the construction in this year. If whatever work is left unfinished at the end of this year will be kicked forward into 2025 and to fund the balance of the construction next year. So anything that's unspent in 2024, I've put it all in just to make sure that we've got it all. But we know that whatever is left unfinished at the end of the year will be pushed forward to next year. The two components of the project that are being funded from the municipal side are, of course, the culverts as well as the fire hydrants. We talked about that at the meeting last year, so we've included that in the municipally funded portion of the project as well. The loan, again, we're going to keep it floating and open. We do believe that interest rates have hit their peak. So we want to make sure that we keep that open so that we benefit from interest rates as they start to come down over the next couple of years. If we lock it in, we won't see the benefit from that. And we'll be able to make direct principal payments to reduce the value of that loan as quickly as we can from any of the contributions that we receive from properties that are in between the two water systems. So worst case scenario, we would have that loan paid off by 2029. We do expect to have at least a few properties that request to join. So we do see that full $820,000 loan paid off within the 5-year period. So do you have any questions about the budget that I put together or any of the increases that we've put into the operating budget this year?
Kristen, can I ask the same question I asked in the sewer meeting, just in regards to parcel taxes and how it works for the local areas? Obviously, we're going to pick up a large area when it comes to the Scarborough neighborhood and things like that. Are people automatically included into the parcel tax, whether or not they connect to the system or not, considering the benefit of things like firefighting or whatnot?
Everybody within the Eagle Cliff local service area is included in the parcel tax if they're able to connect to the system. Only those properties that elect to join for in between will be they won't be paying the parcel tax. They're going to pay the buy-in fee, which compensates Eagle Cliff owners for the parcel tax. They're paying.
Wouldn't there be a benefit
value
to the people who are in between, who have the option to join or not?
Yeah.
Do they not benefit from the fire hydrants that are going in, and should they not be included in the parcel tax?
It's something we can look at. We would have to do a completely separate process to get them into the local service area. At this point, we would have to do another petition process.
It would be become the local service area, though. I mean, if you have a bunch of people connect in that area, what is that no man's land considered if they're not part of the local service area? At what point do they become?
Only if council passes a bylaw establishing a specific geographical area as being within the local service area. At this point, we've assumed that only the properties that request to join will be added to the local service area. This would be an establishment of a brand new local service area, which would require another petition process, and residents within have the option to opt in or to petition against.
So it raises the question then with Eagle Cliff and Cove Bay investing from those local services areas into what Patrick described as best practice, which is to install fire hydrants. I mean, is that an option for us to or not to do at our expense?
Well, you're not, it's the municipality who's paying for them. Island-wide taxpayers are paying for them. So I'm sorry, I don't understand.
When they install the new line,
yeah,
fire hydrants will be installed. Is that going to be on the municipal bill then?
Yes.
It will. So there is a separate line item for the installation of fire hydrants in this project that is going to be extracted out of the cost of.
Yep, it's on the report on page 10. There's a little bit attributed to BIM for hydrants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one because, like you said, it's not. There's a fairness issue in terms of having the Eagle Cliff local service area pay for those hydrants. It's also a bit, to construct the water main and not provide hydrants is a bit wasteful in terms of not realizing, the benefit that should be.
No, I completely agree. I just think that there's a benefit that's being instilled in that neighborhood. Clearly, if people choose not to join the system, they're still going to benefit from that. So there would be a case to be made whether they should be paying the parcel tax, I guess. But that's a council decision, it sounds like.
Well, they're not getting drinking water from the system. The parcel tax is about constructing drinking water, and fire protection is kind of a bit of a ancillary benefit. they're members of Bowen Island Municipality General and they're contributing and paying their taxes, and Bowen Island Municipality General is paying for those fire hydrants, so.
Okay.
I think it's fair.
Yes, Allison, I see
Frontage
your hand up.
taxes different?
Pardon?
Frontage taxes.
Those are parcel taxes, same thing.
So you have to go through the same process for a frontage tax versus a LSA? Or because all these people are gonna get the fire hydrants, can they be charged a frontage tax because they're fronting on the line to pay for the fire hydrant?
I could look into it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You also have properties that aren't necessarily fronting on the line that will get some
Which will benefit because of the
Yeah.
distance, yeah.
The entire island is benefiting from improved fire protection. Like, it's $140,000. It's not a really huge cost overall for given the size of the project. It's being paid for by island-wide taxpayers, and island-wide taxpayers benefit from improved fire protection all over.
Should say it's being paid 70% by grant funding
Yeah,
and 30% by island-wide.
yeah, when you take that part off, it comes out to less than $50,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kristen. Any other comments or questions on the budget and Kristen's proposal for the 5% increase? Just an observation. I was admiring how much our capital fund has gone up in the last couple of years. That's a nice little nest egg I see at $385,000, almost $386,000 now.
Yeah, I think that speaks really well of the committee being willing to have that parcel tax, even though there was no debt that was being serviced by it. But it is a model that I think going forward, just having a parcel tax, which is basically just there to contribute and augment the reserve year after year, I think is it's beneficial.
Yeah, Roger. Okay, so I guess we need a motion to recommend that the 5-year financial plan as presented is supported by us. Is that correct?
Keeping in mind that really the focus on this year's budget is year one, and we will be coming forward with a revised plan once we are into construction and we are looking at the next step in the integration process. It will bring a new plan forward.
Understood. I'm just looking at the recommendation within the minutes, which does identify it as a 5-year financial plan. But
Yeah.
yes, agreed that really it's a front end load on 1 year really until we determine where we're at.
Yeah, thank you.
But nonetheless, the financial plan as presented that
Maybe you can solve the problem of the timing by just throwing in the 2024 Bowen Island Municipality 5-year financial plan.
Yep.
Yep, that works. Council draft 2024 financial and proposed user rates as presented. Yep, that works for me. Is everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, motion.
Can we get a mover, please?
I'm sorry, say again.
Are you moving it, Tim or Glenn?
I saw Glenn's hand up, so yep, I'll second it. Votes in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor. So we're good for that. Next item, update on Vancouver Coastal Health Delegation to Council. This is from Allison. Floor is
I'm
yours.
not sure how I got tagged with this. And
just
Your picture.
oh, yeah.
You stood for that picture, so you're stuck.
Yeah, well, no, I sent you the link to tell you all about it, to go and watch it. So you all went and
We
watched
did.
it, right? Does anybody have any questions?
Very good.
I watched it. I have no questions. I guess it was, as a comment, it was interesting to me to listen to Vancouver Coastal Health sound as though they're pretty close to the end of the rope as far as Cove Bay is concerned, and needing to escalate their activities in that regard. And in terms of the amendment that was made to the Eagle Cliff borrowing wording, I think is appropriate. I think if we'd have jumped into the forefront and said, yeah, we're joining whether Cove Bay is up and operational or not, I think Vancouver Coastal Health might have had something to say about that.
Okay, and there was some lines in the middle. I want to say a GARP, but that's not quite right. They had some risk analysis for the wells, but is that going to be of concern anymore because we're not going to be using the wells?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It won't be a concern for this system anymore.
Yeah. And there's no risk until we get off the wells to worry about from that analysis?
We haven't done GARP assessments for the Eagle Cliff wells.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've only done it for Tunstall and Blue Water and
But we
King
do
Edward.
have full treatment for those wells. So
Yeah.
chlorination and UV. So
Okay.
it's not as big of a concern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Did you guys actually have a chance to watch the meeting at all, or see the excerpts at all? Ian, Glenn, Len?
Yeah, I watched the majority of it, and it seemed that, you know, everything that you would expect from that body, you know, that they had everything in place. The only thing that concerned, I think, what was it? There was that one table that had check marks for if you met all the conditions. And
That's
when you
the treatment objective summary.
yeah, and Eagle Cliffs really was complete except for one box. We would have, remember they had those levels 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. I've forgotten.
It was a turbidity box. I just brought up.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
it. And I thought,
Yeah.
and then when you looked at some of the other ones, there's question marks. Like, so it seemed that we were in good shape. Like, I don't know.
Yep, agreed. Any other comments? Seeing none, hearing none. Okay. Thank you for that, Allison. So question period for the public, but we still don't have any public joined in. So that's a pretty easy one. Anybody want to add any last words or final words, or?
Oh, there was, with my neighbors, you know, some of us are kind of old and, you know, we're deferring our taxes. Are some of these things, do they fall under the parcel tax so that those of us who choose to defer can continue to defer? Is that making sense?
Kristen, you're muted.
Anything on the parcel tax forms part of your property taxes and is eligible to be deferred.
Thank you. Oh, good. Okay. It was just a discussion, and I thought, you know, I thought that was the answer, and that's what I gave, and I thought, but it just came up that I took advantage. So thank you.
Yeah,
That's
thank you, Lon.
That was one of the pluses of doing parcel tax versus user rate.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else, Glenn, Ian? No, good. Okay, well, I guess next meeting's to be determined, and motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Right.